Okay, we're going to continue with part 3, which was the chapter about the hyper-connected consumer. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my slides. Okay, so in the second section of this chapter, we want to talk a little bit about the different consumer profiles. So as a consumer, people have an intent to buy a product or to purchase something. And the work that the brand needs to do is to get the customer from that moment of intention to action. So brands do this whether the customer is walking into a retail place or they are coming into your website or your social media site. This is the same purpose for the brand, to get the customer to move to action. While you're doing that, you don't want to push anything on the customers because that may cause them to leave the store or leave the website or stop following your social feeds. So it's important to do it in an appropriate way and also to really understand your customer. And this is why this chapter is so important, because we're always talking about the changing customer, the change in expectations of the consumers because of digital marketing. So it's really important to understand that. So when we talk about managing new consumer expectations, there are 4 major things that the brands need to watch. The first one is customers expect a good customer service. Customers want better responses, and they want a more authentic level of engagement from the brands. So that's one thing. The second thing is easy to use digital outlets. Customers want digital outlets that are easy to use and they create a strong user experience. The third one is transparency. They need transparency. They want the brands to be truthful about their practices, their policies. And the fourth one is customers want to feel valued, they want to get rewarded, and they want to be given a creative input. So better customer service, you can talk about different things like 24/7 availability, real-time responses, friendly representatives, representatives who are empathetic to the customers, and so on. In terms of easy to use digital outlets, not every customer is using a desktop to go online shopping. It should be mobile friendly. Your website should be mobile friendly. The interface should be user friendly so they can navigate easily. The checkout process should be smooth and easy, and there should be a visual appeal to the website or to the social media site. Customers also want to be engaged. They like social media sites that are engaging them. So you need to really know and identify your target audience, understand their interests. You need to create content that will engage that audience. And you will also need to respond to comments and message to create a better relationship with potential customers. Before you join a conversation with the customers, you need to observe and recognize the platforms inhabited by your target audiences so that you understand the social environment on these networks, and so you can gain trust of consumers and maintain their loyalty. So the brands must regularly test and monitor how their online audience reacts to the provided content in order to ensure desired engagement. The consumers have social media to search for the best deals on product. They can do product reviews. They can get insights before making their purchases. So these informed consumers have much higher expectations from the brands. So the brands have a lot of pressure because they really need to keep up with the customers and their interests and their expectations and their behavior. There was a Pew Research Center study titled Social Media and the Cost of Caring. And according to that study, the social use of digital technology increases awareness of stressful events in the lives of others. The new consumers are also more aware of other people's struggles, and that's one of the negative consequences of social media. According to the same research center study, they found that 51% of US adults are addicted to their digital devices, and this study was done in 2013. So if you did the study today, probably that number is much higher. So people are addicted to their computers and their mobile devices. And probably in 2013, we weren't able to do everything we do now with our cell phones. Now we can do everything from our mobile phones. We don't have to go to a desktop. So that also increased the level of addiction among people. I actually checked that, and they did a similar study in 2022, and the numbers didn't really change a whole lot. But this is also based on people's own perceptions of whether they are addicted or not. So people were asked whether they feel like they're addicted to digital devices, and based on what they think, the numbers did not really change a whole lot in 2022, which is interesting because I would have thought that it would be much higher when you have mobile devices that enables us to do a lot more. There's also a generational difference between the Gen Z generation versus baby boomers about their adoption of social media and the digital space. And you can see that with Facebook, for example. Facebook was very popular at first among millennials. And then the millennials started moving away from Facebook because of the evolution of social media and evolution of Facebook, because Facebook used to be just for college students when it first came out, and then it kind of moved on to your families and parents. And when people started to get friend requests from their mothers and fathers on Facebook, all of a sudden, it wasn't their age group anymore. So they started to shift to other platforms, while the older generations, Gen X's and baby boomers, moved on to Facebook. So the generational differences are also important to understand for a brand. Generally, younger generations adopt technology faster. So if there's a new platform, they are probably the first to adapt to that platform. Older generations used to have longer adoption cycle times, but now they are also familiarizing with them with digital tools, and that adoption cycle is reducing. As I mentioned, social media continues to evolve, so there are always some changes happening in social media, and different platforms are added. There's strong competition among brands for consumers' attention, and that attention span is also reducing. So it's a big pressure for brands to really understand that and compete against other brands. Consumers in different generational cohorts react differently to social platforms too. For example, TikTok is not really accepted by the older generations, but the youngest generation today, I mean, even starting from age 7, age 6, those generations are really interested in TikTok. So there is a generational gap as well. And consumers within each generational group have different emotional needs and different interests. So this is another thing you need to understand. All right, so this is a summary of the three generations. Gen Z are, most of the people are born after 1996. These people are generally digital natives. They prefer short form of content, and they expect brands to take a stance on social issues. So here I don't have the latest generation, which is Generation Alpha. Those are born after 2010, and this is the newest generation. We don't know a whole lot about them, but they are also, we know that they're also adopting two new technologies and digital technologies. They are born with it. But I do want to mention Gen Z, Millennials, Gen X, and a little bit of the baby boomers today. So this is a quote about Gen Z. It says, kids now do not plop in front of the TV and wait for their favorite shows to come on. They have an enormous appetite and the time and technology to consume a lot of content. More and more kids turn to YouTube to find and cultivate their own stars. So digital is in Gen Z's DNA. They are the most dependent and emotionally connected to digital devices. This generation grew up with iPads. They were educated through open platforms. So they're more familiar with the digital landscape. They are value conscious, and they don't necessarily have entitlement as generations before them. They are a DIY generation. that creates and cultivates their ideal social environments without the help of others. They have a self-awareness that systems have been broken, and they're not accustomed to waiting for information such as, monthly magazine subscriptions. They're not used to that. They have key influencers who they value and they monitor them online. They want to be unique in the way they dress and the message they set with each other and through their social media posts. So this generation is considered the founders' generation. They do things on their own. They start online activities through gaming. Minecraft is the game of Gen Z. They search for acceptance and popularity. The endorsement by their peers is important for them. They actively seek for product recommendations from their friends. They improve advertisements and like those that are humorous, inspiring. They have music that they can relate to. They like stickers, emojis, and so on. So they're also interested in storytelling. Millennials are kind of like that too. DIY box opening is something that belongs to Gen Z. They have made it popular. Gaming websites are popular among Gen Z. They're interested in beauty tutorials and things like that. And one example of this generation is Tabby Gevinson. So she was probably the first influencer of her generation. She became an influencer basically at age 12. She started a fashion blog called Style Rookies, talking about teenage fashion. And when she got the attention of the fashion industry, she was introduced to big names like Prada and Karl Lagerfeld, Anna Wintour. So today she's an actress and she is pretty popular. So she's a good example of this generation.
The thing I always liked about fashion was that it was very connected to everything else, and when I really loved a collection, I would look up the movie or song or whatever inspired it, and from that was just opened up to like a whole world of what eventually became my very favorite things. I'm not obsessed with it the way I used to be. Like, I think before, if I came on a shoot like this, I would know what everything was. Paying a lot of attention to fashion at a young age, I think gave me a sense for, like, just attention to detail, and I think that makes me a lot better in all the work that I do now. I just turned 18, and I'm about to graduate from high school, and Rookie is for teenagers, so I am aging a little bit out of that demographic, but I don't really see that changing much about the actual content of the site.
Okay, so that was her. And there are a couple of other influencers of this generation. So some of those are Danielle Middleton, Seven Supergirls, Magda Angelis. She's interesting actually. To just simply share her cheerleading experiences, and then it expanded into a clothing line and a multi-channel deal with Awesomeness TV. So she became pretty popular. So Gen Z are good at using social media with their own interests. Okay, when it comes to millennials, those are born between 1981 and 1996. They value social responsibility and ethical business practices. They like humorous and relatable content, and they appreciate personalized experiences. So millennials actually outnumbered baby boomers in numbers. Justin Bieber is an example of this generation. Harry Styles, Rihanna, those are millennials. And they are the first generation of consumers that blurred the line between online and offline domains. So for them, the real world is online. If you want to connect with this generation, it's important that you identify their ever-changing social habits and brand expectations. They voice their strong opinions online. They search for acknowledgement through different social media communities. They grew up during the sustainability movement, and they're focused on making a difference in the world by being socially responsible. They respond to native advertisements better than traditional banner advertisements. They expect brands to react and respond immediately to their needs. They need to trust a company or news before they spend time to read those sites. They are the most ethnically diverse generation. And millennials are more into experience-driven campaigns. So Forbes magazine says blogs are meant to be authentic, and many of them are run by a single individual. Millennials connect best with people over logos. They're visual shoppers, are the generation that replaced hotels and traditional hostels with crowd-sorted homes like Airbnb. They like to travel affordably. The sharing economy is kind of the product of this generation. So they are the ones who created the Rent a Runway or Bag Borrow or Steal type of websites where you can borrow or rent a product instead of buying the product. So Generation X, these are people born between 65 and 80. They prefer email marketing and reviews. They're less likely to engage with brands on social media. They still do, but probably compared to millennials and Gen Z, a lot less. They also value transparency and authenticity. So this quote says they know what they want and what they like, and most importantly, who they are. Recognizing this creates an opportunity for marketers to appeal to this population with a genuine and realistic campaign that Gen Xers can identify with. This generation is called the MTV generation because that was when the music television was created. This generation is right between millennials and baby boomers. This was the first generation that grew up with more than 3 TV stations and personal computers, and internet was made a part of their daily routines for the first time for this generation. So Gen X is also called the net generation. They were not the first to embrace social media, but they believe that they were the first to compare these platforms to traditional methods of the past. They do utilize social media to gain insight about world news and politics, and they respond to the use of hashtags. They participate online as they watch their favorite shows and engage in conversations about politics. They like inspirational, positive, and empowering messages. They also have trust in brand loyalty. So if you have a marketing campaign targeting this generation, you have to stress the value of a product or service. They are the show me generation. They believe in actions over words. For this generation, email is not dead. They still utilize the use of email. So email campaigns actually show strong conversational rates among this generation. They're not always the first to try the latest social media tools, but they will slowly migrate toward them if those tools last long enough. They're comfortable making purchases online, and they were the first generation who started paying their bills online. They're also the generation that uses Pinterest the most. They need to collect and organize and share the content on Pinterest. So this generation is big with collecting and sharing and organizing. They want more tangible products. So even when they have photographs, for example, they like it printed. My social book is popular among this generation because Facebook users can print their pictures or wall posts. And then we have baby boomers. So this is a generation from 1946 to 1964. Mark Jacobs is a part of this generation. Mark Jacobs, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, those are baby boomers. This is a highly profitable market for brands. 1 in every 5 Twitter users is a baby boomer. They are over the age of 50 or 55 generally. And 53% of 65-year-olds are on the internet, according to a 2014 study. So they are on the internet. They, technology is important to them. They spend a lot of time online because they're mostly retired, so they have the time to use the internet, but they're more likely to use their desktops instead of their mobile phones. This generation is still the kind of generation that prefers flip phones versus smartphones. They need to have a viable reason to participate in online conversations, and they need relevant content and relevant language to be engaged. So this first picture here is a model, Linda Rodden. She was approaching 70 years old. I believe she's now over 75. She's actively involved on Instagram, and she has a lot of followers. She's engaged. Baby boomers are also getting more engaged in YouTube nowadays. And this lady here, you may know, Iris Apfel. She is the one who created iris emojis for cell phones. So this generation is still interested. So one of the recommendations for brands is that you don't want to exclude the baby boomers because they are still important for your brand. They're still engaged. All right, so just to summarize, for brands, it's important that you focus on your unique selling propositions. You differentiate your brand by highlighting what is different about your product. You have to communicate the value that your brand offers to the customers. You have to invest in quality design and easier to use interfaces. So user experience is really important, ease of use. And you have to create an intergenerational conversation. You need to try to represent all generations in your marketing campaigns. You don't want to exclude any, and you have to focus on the persona of the online user. All right, so I'm going to finish it here, and we'll start with our new chapter in our next class.